Hello, and welcome to Austin Miller's Post-Chorus Podcast. Episode 1 with Alex Maxwell.
Hi, yeah, I'm Alex. Singer-songwriter from Dumfries. I do kind of like indie folk rock music. And it's just basically started solo, but I play quite a lot with a violinist. And I've had a band for like EP launches, and that's the intention. But yeah.
Nice. So this kind of first segment that I've kind of come up with is it's what, why, when, and where
Yes.
of songwriting. So if you could go through that, like, because I've always found it interesting. It's something I asked myself as well recently. Why do you do it? Why do you write songs, and when do you write them? And then so
I think it's interesting. I think there's no one way. I mean, some people are very structured and have their own unique thing, and that works for them. But I've realised all these what, why, wheres, and whens are quite different. Some of them are a bit more consistent than others. But if you start with what I write about, well, I tend to write quite autobiographical, or at least semi-autobiographical. So based on my experiences, and so like just like living life, and then trying to make sense of those experiences. And I feel like music is an opportunity to actually sit down and find clarity within whatever you're going through at that time. So I can't always just sit down and be like, hey, I'm going to write a song, I do try to convince myself that I can do that a lot of the time, but it doesn't tend to work a lot of the time. It tends to work when I'm just, I don't know, feel the muse or whatever, just feel like doodling on the guitar for half an hour, and then like an idea comes in, so it's not really too structured a process. I mean, that's also because of the realities of day-to-day life, having a job and not being able to like work all the time. Otherwise I'd probably try and do more of a Nick Drake kind of thing, where he just sits at 9 till 5 and he writes, and then by writing consistently you kind of like build that routine into your life. And then
it's like you turn the tap open, and it just all starts to
exactly being in touch with those music. Yeah, it's an interesting that flow as well, though, because like it's something I think about quite a bit in terms of like there's a lot of trust in I'm doing this course now called The Artist's Way to try and remove blocks from writing. And so it's like a weekly chat with some creatives, and you read a chapter and you talk about things that kind of disable your writing process, and try to understand that through your relationships and lots of other means, so trying to kind of open those channels up. And I think it's quite, you call it whatever you like, energy, spiritual, or whatever, but like try to tap into that energy or that flow is ultimately what we try to do when we're writing a song, try to tap into that flow state. And so that's why I think songwriting can be two different things. It can be very like an immediate, I want to say this about this kind of this emotive feeling thing, or it can be more of a kind of like trust in like words and lyrics coming, and then like having it back in your mind, and then over time experiences like fill those gaps in the lines or lyrics. But so it's kind of like two different styles. But I realized when I first started writing, I was quite matter of fact, like this is what I'm going through, and letting it out on paper. But I feel like over time I'm trying to be a bit more empathetic with my songwriting as well. So it's not all just about like a selfish endeavor, like letting things out, so try to see things more from another's perspective. But I think that's because of maybe my studies of looking more feminist stuff and looking at like, and it's more interesting for the listener, Obviously you go through that phase of just like when you first start writing, it's all about maybe yourself.
It's about you,
yeah. So that's interesting.
Yeah, it's definitely what I've done with my writing. It did start off like that, and then you end up, like what you were saying, you end up kind of getting tired of that and thinking it is a little bit selfish, a little bit, and then you start writing about other things out with that, or other people, or other like other experiences.
Definitely, and trying to like universalize some of the things that you say as well. I mean, you can universalize things for very specific experiences, but then trying to like, try and like kind of bring people in through that kind of universal anthemic kind of approach to things. But also another approach, I was listening to a lot of Father John Misty last year, and his way of like how you deal with like you're talking about love or something like that. It's very, everyone has their own unique experience of what that means, and so being very literal with like the seemingly mundane things, but
Yeah,
actually they are the things that kind of like you build on, that you grow maybe love or something. And so like being more explicit with those and honest with those details is actually quite a bit more interesting. Like like Benji album by Sun Kill Moon is very explicit about through his stories, unique stories. I think so. There's two different ways. I think sometimes when you try and universalize too much, it kind of gets a bit too simple, and you
yeah,
know,
yeah. I've also found as well when if you're writing a song, it's very individual. You think it's very individual to you, and you
definitely,
find it's very, but it tends to be the songs that are more universal.
yeah,
Are more. Um, it's
definitely,
like the more individual you find it, the more, yeah,
yeah, no,
more it connects to more people.
definitely. So sometimes you just have to let it flow and not think too much. That's
Yeah,
because then that yeah. I think not overthinking is something. I listened to like a Damien Gerardo
mm,
podcast or interview the other day, and he was talking about that. Just let it flow. It's not your story. It's like you're kind of like transcending something from somewhere else. And I like that idea.
mm,
You don't own it. It's just passing through. You're like a facilitator for that song rather than owning
yeah,
it. Because you put it out and you play it, you don't own it anyway. Really, you're just kind of, it's like something you've gathered. As you sometimes you go
yeah,
back to a song later and you're like, oh, how did I write that song?
yeah,
Like who was I then?
yeah,
Although other times you go back to that song like being through a difficult relationship or something, and you're like, oh, I've been through this actually. I'm not like just going through this the
yeah,
first time again. So that's quite weird looking back at your like segments of your life. It's almost like a diary, and it's like you don't want to go on in life a lot of time
yeah,
thinking you're not learning from your mistakes, and then you realize like,
yeah.
I've already been through this. It's like maybe constant like
It's
consistent
a good
reminders.
yeah, that you
You
put
know?
out into the world for everyone to hear. It's
Yeah, I
very
know. Like it's important. I
yeah,
know.
yeah,
It's exactly that's a difficult thing as well. Like
yeah,
the ego aspect of it and the id. It's a
yeah,
complicated. Yeah, for a long time I never played live and never shared my music, so I just got
yeah.
to
It
a
was the
point.
same.
Yeah, just takes a bit of time, willingness, and trust. Yeah,
Mm,
but then that goes into the question of why. For me, it's just like an urge. It's not like
mm-hmm.
I didn't. I didn't grow up thinking I wanted to be a musician at all. I started off in a clarinet because you've got another instrument you play as well. I've seen.
Yeah. Well,
What
it's
was it?
I do kind of I play classical guitar, so
Yeah.
that's what I study. That's what I'm studying. So the songwriting's like on the side to that.
Mm.
Um, like I don't sit and practice acoustic guitar or like electric guitar. I mean, a little bit electric when I'm doing like jazz stuff, but yeah, it's very much on the side. So that's what I'm. Yeah, so the classical guitar is yeah, that's what I started on.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think coming from a background where you're maybe more classically trained, so I started clarinet, and you have the
Yeah,
theory,
it's the same.
the
Yeah,
theory is
the theory's
there, and so then picking up an instrument I picked up the guitar when I was 18 before I went to uni, and then got one for going to uni, and then I was like, you got so much time to fiddle and doodle about,
mm,
and you get to enjoy an instrument for the sheer enjoyment of it because you've had that kind
mm.
of background of learning. So it's just now it's just flow, and you're doing it because you want to, not because you're like, oh, like remember my mum like pick an instrument like when you're primary school, it's like that
Picking
one
it,
looks
yeah,
good. That sounds all right. It
yeah,
looks pretty cool. Whereas
yeah,
guitar's like, because you really want it, and so it's just an urge. And then I just kept on messing around when I was an undergrad, and eventually you realize that it becomes like an escape, a safe escape space, and spend more time with it, and you get into flow, and it's something to kind of like exercise your creative skills, and then after a time I was just like, whoa, this is actually quite a central figure in my life, and it's like I was at uni and doing other things, thinking different career trajectories, which I still am, but it just becomes much more important than like one day you're like, oh crap, music's quite quite up there. So
yeah.
that's kind of what happened to me.
It's quite good you've got that, but because for me it's kind of it's like a two-edged sword. It's like I'm doing the same thing. It's both music, It's classical music and
mm,
it's songwriting. So it's good you've got that you're doing something different to music in order to like let that, because
Definitely.
sometimes you can get a bit blocked in it if you're doing practicing 3 or 4 hours classical guitar. and then you're like, I haven't written a song in ages. I really need to write a song, but I've been playing music all day.
Yeah,
You know.
yeah. So it's not necessarily
So
the escape that it could
it would
be.
no, it was, yeah. So it's trying to find other ways around that. You know, it's trying to do other stuff out with, you know, because
It's a
you
weird
can't.
one. It's a really weird one, because I think once I was quite prolific with songwriting maybe a few years ago, and I was thinking, okay, well, I didn't like my job at the government, and then I decided to
Yeah.
leave it and do music for like 6 weeks or something. And I didn't write anything. I was just waking up at like 11 and not really being very productive. I realized that to have some sort of structure, it takes your mind away. It makes me a lot more creative. But I would not advise a PhD, because it's just like that takes up all your mental space. And I'm just like, whenever I can find time now, that's when I kind of like try and just hone in a song that I've got like a list of like, I don't know, like 30, 40 songs that are unfinished or something. There's a lot more than that, but then you prioritize a list and then try and think which one to focus on, why. So I have like lists, and I have like the artist names of kind of like the vibes I'm going for.
Oh, that's interesting.
When I come up with an idea, a lot of the time, it's weird. It's weird when you come up with an idea like melodically, vocally, it just comes out. And I think you listen to a lot of music, you don't really know what you're taking in. It's kind of very subconscious. And then when you start writing a song, it's like, oh, that sounds a bit like this and this and this. And so I like the idea of like bringing 3 artists that you've been listening to and try to make your own unique blend, you know, with your own voice attached to that. Yeah. So like, yeah, I feel like that's what I do quite a lot with artists just seeping. And 1 or 2 times this happens, like that's actually an Idlewild song, for example, you know, like, and it's like it's happened a couple of times, but most of the times, like, no, that is a unique blend. But like, where does originality come from? You know?
Yeah.
I think it's quite interesting. Think about that.
Definitely, like nicking things. Like what I'll do is, if I listen to a song or a piece of music I really like, and there's something about it I really like, I'll kind of I won't write it down, but I'll take a kind of mental note of, I want a song to write a song that does that thing. Or like the most recent one is, I wanted to write a song that the chorus doesn't happen like after the first verse, you get another verse. You know, make you wait for it, like the Foo Fighters song, "Low." It takes ages before you hear that chorus. So when you hear it the first time, you're like, you know, you want to hear hear it the first time. You don't know what's going to happen in the chorus happens, but it's for when you hear it the next time after that. You know, it's making you wait for that chorus.
That's really interesting. That's something that I've been going through recently. Is the unpredictability of a song. You know, the restraint from a chorus. You know, I think that shows a sign of like maturity as well. It's like when it makes sense, I think, when you start writing songs to be like, oh, verse, chorus, bridge, you know, chorus to go out with. And that's quite a lot of my first songs have been like. But yeah, there's something to be said about like watching a lot of bands live and listening to them and being like, you feel like it should go in there. And some songs don't even ever go to that chorus. Like Phoebe Bridgers and like, you know, that kind of more melancholic singer-songwriting style. And it's restraint of war and drugs. It's like, it's a different style of writing though, isn't it? It's more like you're going with this feel rather than this kind of like boom.
Boom.
Yeah. And I think that's really interesting, but I still think I'm a bit off. I think my strong point maybe is kind of the kind of more melodical side and like catchy choruses and something to say. I think you have to kind of admit who you are as well, but it's really interesting to kind of like, it's quite exciting to think that you can go down these different paths and like try a completely different style. Because I would say I've got lots of different styles, and that's another challenge, is kind of try to fit that into a cohesive personal narrative. So it's like, I mean, he's got a pop song and then he's got his like really depressing folk song. It's like, how is that the same person? You know, so it's kind of
I think it's good though. Like, it's good not to. There's like loads of bands that or artists that end up, you know, once you've heard one album from or one or a few songs by them, you've heard all of them. You know, and you're like, it's like, is that it? You know, you're not gonna like throw in a curveball and be like, whoa, what was that? You know, I
think it's really interesting. I think maybe the point I'm trying to think about it now is like, maybe you should actually take all those like and have little collectives, you know, and so like have a sonic idea as well for that collective bunch of songs and make it an EP, and it's like vastly different to the next one, you know. Yeah. So I think that's really interesting. Like my first EP we put out physically. I only put 2 singles out on Spotify so far, but it was like very much like I don't know, breakup or something, to deal with breakups.
Mm-hmm.
And then the next EP is more like a very optimistic thing, you know, like hope and promise, like as a direct response to that. And I think that every release can be a direct response to that if you want it to be. For me, that's much more interesting. And for me, it's like it feels like an obligation as an artist to kind of like push yourself, and with each release and try something different, you know. So yeah, that's what my plan is. Going forward.
I mean, that kind of takes us into like the second part of the podcast where I'm talking about influences.
Influences,
so,
yeah.
So what type of things influence you? Like you were saying earlier, like what are the things that you go, you're not just going to sit down and goes, I'm going to write a song, and then you write a song. It's always something that makes it happen, whether that's like we were talking about there, like writing down band names, the songs you liked, or like maybe a story you've read, or like a movie you've seen.
Yeah, I think sometimes like you almost get surprised by influences as well, you know, because I'm always trying to learn things, you know, and so it's like I watch a lot of philosophical things, you know, Jason Silva and all the rest of it, and try and like a Russell Brand podcast and things, and try to really advance your own knowledge, and then try to like reach that clarity through a different song in the future. And like, so it might not sound like that in terms of what the lyrics are, but there's like a lot of times like a philosophical underpinning to that, you know. It's like I've reached my clarity, and then the listener can interpret it whatever they want, way they want after that, you know. But for me, there's definitely there's quite a code of artists that I like and sounds that I like that really inform my style. So for example,
who are they then? Yeah.
For example, like really couldn't understand why bands sang not in their accent. So like when I first started getting into like music when I was 16, like getting NME, I was like, became really important to me to sing in Scottish accent. Like
it was the same.
You know, the Arctic Monkeys like singing obviously from Sheffield.
So they sing it.
Yeah, it makes sense. And like, so I was listening to like Frightened Rabbit, Admiral Fallow, Jetpacks, Twilight Sad, and they were not ashamed to sing it in Biffy Clyro. They're just completely singing their Scottish accent, and I really like that. So that was like a blueprint, number one. And then two was like I picked up the guitar kind of because of Frank Turner, because he went from like hardcore to acoustic.
Exactly, like Frank,
yeah. And I was basically quite like into all the hardcore stuff, like emo punk rock when I was in my teens. So like when he went acoustic, I was like, oh, what's this acoustic guitar thing? You know, my sister had one, so I liked his punk rock sense of honesty. So I was really attracted to that. I think that was the time when I was finding my voice, you know, and music was an outlet. So like the Scottish voice, the more the punk rock sense of honesty. Then Villagers, I really like Villagers. In terms of how he delivers.
I've not heard of them.
Oh, amazing! Like it's Irish singer-songwriter.
I'll write them down.
Yeah, the way he delivers his vocals is amazing. Then because I spend a lot of time doing it on my own, I really fell in love with Tallest Man on Earth and his like imaginative kind of creative play with his finger picking, because I do a lot of finger picking. And then a couple of others was Vance Joy, like just because it's like pure pop melody sometimes, you know, just like the melodies are amazing. And then the grit of like Conor Oberst's Bright Eyes. I think he's just an amazing lyricist. Like his latest album Ruminations is like one of the best things I've ever heard. So yeah, but the more that I write over time, the more I realize that it's better to be simple, you know. When you start off an acoustic guitar, you're the one person, so you make it all unnecessarily complicated, so when you play it live it's much more interesting. But when you actually go into the studio, like I've been listening to a lot of Kevin Morby of late, you know, it's just a much more simple 3 chords. You don't need to, you know.
Yeah, I think that's, everyone says it, but like everyone goes, oh, you can tell when it's a really good song when when it's like you strip it all down, it's just
definitely.
Like one of my favorite songs, I mean, like favorite album probably ever, is like the Midnight Organ Fight, and you take that you listen to it, and it does sound like the lyrics it's got used and stuff. It sounds complex, but there's a simplicity in it. And when you start going into it and start like learning the songs and it's only like 2 or 3 chords in each song. It's like C, F, and G, like backwards walking and stuff. Like
it's a really weird thing actually for Frightened Rabbit. I say they're one of my biggest inspirations, but I've never actually learned one of their songs all the way through. You know how sometimes you just listen to artists and things creep in, and a lot of songs I end up writing have that kind of Frightened Rabbit vibe, but I've never learned a Frightened Rabbit song. It's kind of weird, but they are simple. You're right, and like Frank Turner and Frightened Rabbit, like, I started learning them, and I was like, "Geez, it's 3 chords." You know,
3 chords. Yeah.
And when I started playing live, I was I was doing a lot of finger picky, and when you're playing a pub or an open mic night, try to get attention it's disastrous
Sure.
finger picking, you know.
Yeah.
So then I
You just
started
have to
like
bash it out.
you have to bash it out. So like that actually, a lot of the songs I wrote came from like playing in open mic nights, right, and realizing, right, I need this kind of vibe song for this kind of time. And so like
Yeah.
trying to write a song for each vibe and like the dynamics of a live set. So I feel like I've kind of like I've written a song for that, for this moment.
Mhm.
And so like just to kind of like make the live set much more interesting, because you start playing live, yeah, unless you've got a highly attentive audiences, you know, like you can't always just do
Yeah.
intimate finger picky stuff, you know.
Yeah.
So that's quite interesting in itself as well. Just yeah, but I did like Frank Turner's kind of philosophy of like every song should be able to be played in acoustic guitar, you know.
Yeah.
So no matter how
Mhm.
complex, because like what I've realized is when you go into the studio, you can add all these layers. You can go to town
Mhm.
in it and like make it
Yeah.
exciting or have this sonic idea. But like for me, I've
Yeah.
always like thought a song's ready when I can just play acoustic guitar and it still sounds good and hold its own,
Mhm.
you know? And then you can do what you want in the studio. That's quite a different story altogether, isn't it? Like just yeah, sure. But influences as well, just
Mhm.
as fellow singer-songwriters, I think are really inspiring, like directly.
Yeah.
So you can have like idols or
Yeah.
whatever, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
But creating a community, like, and I
Yeah.
definitely found that was much more
Definitely.
productive when I had a pal, Duke of Norfolk, American musician who was in Edinburgh. As a bit of a folk scene, and we'd hang out a lot and we'd bounce ideas off each other. I know, and like seeing him writing a song would really inspire me to go away and finish like, what do you think of this? And so it's like that the
Yeah.
directness of it is quite important as well,
Yeah.
you know.
Definitely. I feel like with me as well, like with the whole when I decided to record an EP, or like decided to start like maybe releasing the songs that I was writing, or like half writing, half finishing, but not fully finishing,
Yeah.
to go through with that was when I was doing lots of volunteering stuff at Celtic Connections,
Hmm.
you know, and then getting to like bands like Admiral Fallow and Frightened Rabbit, and like they were like, I'd get to see the gigs like firsthand, like
Hmm.
I'd be there, you know,
Yeah.
and you're like, because you're like in and around it,
I think that's the
you'd want
energy.
to do it, and you'd want to like, um yeah, so that for the first time, and having other friends that do the same thing or similar things. At the time I didn't, you know,
Yeah, create the scene.
I'd go to gigs, um just to like find people that do similar things, you know.
Absolutely, and that's the best way to do it, because I definitely thought there was a good folk scene in Edinburgh, but when I moved to Glasgow, it was almost like starting all over again in terms of finding the scene, you know? And
Mhm.
so I've always just been like addictively gone to gigs because you pick up things from watching performers, you know, and like you compare yourself to them. You know, if I'm seeing like Tallest Man on Earth and Usher Halls, I'm like trying to look at things and imagine how one of my songs would go down in that and what you'd have to tweak. You know, it's like there's a lot to be
Mhm.
learned from watching the best. But there's a lot to be said about like that kind of direct creating your own scene DIY, and that definitely
Mhm.
was in Glasgow recently, just trying to kind of like work and build on that, playing more open mics, and
Mhm.
yeah, I think even doing things like this, for example, is good. It's good to kind of like
Yeah.
just create a scene,
Yeah.
because like everyone raves about Scottish scene, but there's definitely, I think it's very good and vibrant, but it's like pockets, different places,
Mhm.
different sounds. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
um, and like knowing who you are and your music and your voice is
I've heard
important
that.
within that, you
Yeah.
know. But yeah,
Yeah. I suppose that we kind of touched on it briefly there, earlier, but like your songwriting techniques. So is there anything you have, um we spoke about the putting the different artists, like you're going, this song sounds a bit like um X or Y, like who does it sound like, you know? So is there
hmm
anything else that you
yeah.
have that
I
you
mean,
do? You
my general process is when I have time messing around acoustic, basically,
Mhm.
until I have a melody, and then play around with the guitar melody. When it's happy, like just blurt out a melody, you know, like no words. Like I could be talking about anything, and then eventually I have like a vocal melody and a guitar melody, and then it's like,
Yeah.
okay, I think it's really quite exciting sometimes, like words just come out that fit the vibe or the energy or the feelings of the song, and then you've got something to hold on to and grasp onto, and then you can build around that, and you can try and
Yeah,
a lot of
it's
time you
like
blurt
pretty
out.
much what I do, yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. I think it's very similar to what most people do. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. You get some people that
That's
write all
you.
the lyrics down first, like for
Yeah.
example, Yeah, I think that's a. I wouldn't say I'm a poet. You know, some people are just poets and then try and add music to it, which is for me that's worked quite a few times in terms of it's really easy to add melodies to stuff. You know, it's the hard part is the lyrics, because then if you have a vocal structure, it has to, like, the word has to fit in with that sound,
Yeah.
which can be quite interesting because then you can use unconventional words.
Yeah.
You know.
Or what I found is sometimes you have to find like a middle ground. You know, you'll have a line you really like, but you'll have to change the way it syllabically works and rhythmically works.
Yeah.
You know.
Definitely.
Or sometimes you'll have a lyric you really like, but it doesn't work rhythmically. You know, so you might have to go, I need to change that in order to fit the melody and the rhythm of.
Definitely. And I think like it's quite important. Although I'm preaching this, but I don't actually practice it a lot. Is like letting that go. Those great words or something like that. You know, just like let it flow. And sometimes you fill it in with more simple words, and you don't think you sound as interesting. You know, but like you need to get a song done, and it's kind of like letting that flow and don't like hold yourself back too much. Which I do. I've got ridiculous amount of like structures of songs finished, but no lyrics, like, or a third of the lyrics. You know.
Yeah.
And I think that comes from just like, yeah, as you said, watching films, reading books. Reading books is really good, I think, for me in terms of like ideas for
and
lyrics.
You like penciling something like a line you like from the book or.
Yeah, I mean, I think we've all got our own little like things that we like to do. I like to go and, if I have an idea for a song or a theme, like even going like Goodreads, you know, quotes, Goodread quote, and I put like a word in, and you get all the best minds talking about his theme, and then you kind of like take what you want from that and according to your version of that theme. And I think that's quite interesting to do as well, you know. So I like to do that. And what else? What else have I got in terms of? Yeah, I think something I've started doing recently is kind of like, instead of like picking up a guitar, like different instruments bring out different expressions. You know, like a piano will bring out a different level of emotion. Like and like even being in the studio sometimes, like I've been working a song and then you start like playing a harmonium, you know, and then like it brings out a different dynamic, and then this sonic.
I could try that.
Yeah. And so like not restricting yourself to one medium, because the guitar is definitely amazing, but it has limitations as well.
Yeah,
you know,
I've got similar to that, one of my songs. Chris, who plays piano and cello with us, I had this old song that I wanted to finish, but it was like played on, it's like finger picked on guitar.
Yeah.
But I really liked it. I was like, that would sound way better on piano. So I played it to Chris. I was like, Chris, play this on the piano. Don't know what to do. I can't really play piano very well. And then he was like, all right, cool, and just played it, and then added more texture to it, more like there's more texture and more and did things like pianistic things that you wouldn't necessarily do on guitar, and he totally changed it, and then the song built from there, and then that totally changed the guitar part, like what I was playing. So I was like, I don't need to play that anymore, so I'll do something different, and then
yeah, I think that's really interesting. Yeah, but that comes from like bouncing ideas off someone else as well and trying different, because like I've always liked this idea of like the control over it all, but like I'm starting to get that be more open to the idea of like collaboration, you know, and trusting other people to kind of do that. And that comes in with producers as well. I'm just trying to think of like a producer that I'm going to work with in the future, like where it's more, the dynamics are more like they get you completely, you know. I mean, I do like the idea of being able to do it all at home, but I'm not good enough at the DIY home recording. I've started demoing again, for example, a few songs I've written in lockdown to try and upskill to a decent demo level, but it's never good enough. And that's why at one point, with like The One Comes Away, the first thing I put out, I was like, I tried it at home. I tried, and I was like, this is just not how I have it in my head, you know? It's restricted by limitations, and just being like, okay, well, I'm going to go to a proper studio and do that. But when you get into the rhythm of like going to the studio, is very expensive, and then you have to work with their schedule and hours, and you kind of lose the fun part of like recording your own things. Because for me, definitely, when I first started writing my first songs, part of the fun was like immediately that day recording it as a demo and like, oh, there it is, like, oh god, I did that, you know. And then and then like there's a lot of fun. So as soon as you try to be slightly more serious and like go into a studio and spend more money, you kind of detach yourself a bit from the initial enjoyment. And I definitely felt like I have done that, but like I wouldn't want to put out the demo version that I have, you know, because people are very quick to judge, and also it's not a full representation of what you have in your head anyway. So it's kind of like it's tricky. Yeah, so I'm trying to get back into enjoying the home demo and just like putting demos out on SoundCloud, and then like eventually going into the studio and then putting that out on Spotify. So yeah. And I think like playing live as well, when you've got an idea, like when you have an idea, like playing open mic nights, and like you get a feel of a song, right? It's like, this part needs work. It's not got such a good reaction. And the bridge, that's terrible. I need to go home and work on that. So I think that a lot of time now, I've learned a lot by going into the studio too early in terms of playing a song for quite a long time live, and then be like,
and you get used to it, and you things that change and stuff. Yeah,
you can go for different directions anyway. But like being like, at least I've given this like a go, and rather than recording now and looking back in 2 years' time, like, it's just like could have been so much better.
Yeah. I definitely found that with the stuff on that EP I recorded about 3 years ago now.
Yeah,
like one of the songs on it wasn't meant to be on the EP, but it was like brand new. But I really liked it. I thought it was one of like the best songs I'd written at the time. And I said, can be like, if we like for the time we had, can we do like another song? So cram it in, but like it ended up being kind of different to how we play it live now and how it feels now. It's also like a different key now, and yeah. So like listening back to it, you're like, I wish I'd left it, and done it like a.
It's really difficult that, though, isn't it? Because like you want to move on, you keep writing songs, you keep going through life and having different things you want to talk about, but you want to put stuff out as well, and move on and have like a journey. Because I put a physical EP out like a couple of years ago, but I've only put the 2 singles on Spotify because 2 of the songs were recorded to the degree that I was really happy with, and you don't really want to put things out that are not to that level. So my next single, In Action, is off of that first EP, but I went and recorded it again, Rod from Idlewild in Edinburgh, because I knew it wasn't the vision that I had, and so it's like, even now it's.
Did you record that at Post Electric?
Yeah. Post Electric, yeah. I've had it for like a year and a half, like honestly. Just I've been to Africa for a year, but like it's just, and even that is like maybe 85% or 90% of what I imagine it as, but you have to make do with the resources you've got at the time, but it's a lot better, I think, than the thing that's in the physical EP. And then a couple of other songs that I had in the physical EP, I kind of want to re-record again, but it's like 2 years ago now, and you've got all these other songs, but I definitely have the intention to kind of take those songs and do it in a proper studio.
So yeah, this part of the show is the process of the demo to the finished product, if you like. So this is.
So you're gonna play a part of this.
Yeah. So
I'll send the first chorus or something.
Yeah. So cool. Where do you want me to go from?
This is a much worse version. I just start from the beginning for like and play it for like 20-30 seconds.
Cool. You can see when to stop, and you can kind of talk a bit about it as well.
Yeah.
So this is the original version.
Pieces of a distant tale. You've got some bruises, but you're thicker skinned. Now you're giving up and looking back. It wasn't time spent in vain. You have to exercise self-discipline.
I like that line.
So hold my hand now, then let me go. You're just somebody that I used to know.
Yeah.
So actually, that was recorded. That was like a voice memo.
That was just me on my phone. That's so when I come up with an idea, even if it's just a 30-second idea, always record it in here, and then I use voice notes for the memo notes for writing all the lyrics. Generally, that's how that's my rule of thumb. But yeah, with that, it's just it's much more upbeat. I was really going for it in that demo, the first time I wrote it. Why that is, I think it's just because you're trying to create the energy a bit more, on your own and have more fun with it, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And it's much more like invasive in your face, like boom. And then through playing it more, I tried it. Next version was like a more fingerpicky version. It's just a much more like what's best for the song, essentially. You know, like the emotions that you try to express. Like I don't think it really benefited from me being as gung ho, you know. And so like I tried to like chill out a bit more in the next version, do a folk version. So sometimes it's interesting to do like what you imagine to be a big band sounding to like
Yeah,
a bit
you
more.
do that. That's kind of what I do actually, because I'm writing, I'm hearing it as because most of the times when I play it's with other people and with a band. So when I do stuff myself, I'm very like trying to like go for it because I'm used to hearing the song in that light.
You try to create that live, like you try to create that
create it,
like on your own, just with your guitar, on your phone, your mobile phone. But like sometimes by doing that, you can pick up a lot of energies that when you go back to it, you'll be like,
yeah.
But
cool.
Yeah, it's so vastly different to the final product.
Yeah, so this is the kind of finger picked. I think this is the finger picked version.
Yeah.
You've written folk version. Yeah.
Yeah, folk version.
Right. Let's hear this then.
Yeah.
As you put together pieces of a distant tale, you've got some bruises, but you're thicker skinned. Now you've given up looking back, it wasn't time spent in vain. You have to exercise self-discipline. So hold my hand now and let me go. You're just somebody that I used to know. Now the wanting comes in waves, you play the field, you still care. You need to find yourself some middle ground.
Yeah, so
you can tell you can tell it's starting to take shape. You know, it's starting to mature.
Yeah, exactly.
It's fine wine.
I mean, it's probably me doing that after a night out as well on my phone again. The vocals just horrendous. But like, it's just all about getting the vibe, though, isn't it? You know, it's all about picking up the new. This is meant to be the direction of the song. Like it wasn't meant to go another way. This sounds a lot more natural with what I'm trying to say as well. Even like, you know, like the words that you say sometimes that have to come across in the sound. You know, the one comes away is kind of like this, kind of like. Yeah, and that's why that's the bare bones. But then I left a gap. I think I tried to get better over time, leaving gaps in songs as well. Right, try to fill it up all the time. So left that intro gap, just very basic. And I like had this idea of going into the studio that like I wanted this kind of like frightened rabbit kind of ooze at the start, because I really like that aspect of what they do. And so like the 2 pointers for going into the studio were the National and Frightened Rabbit. But like at that very bare bones version was just me trying to like remove all the unnecessary rubbish, essentially, you know, and getting right down to the bare bones. And I just think it works a lot more as a chilled out song. But it just takes a lot of playing to realize that, you know.
Yeah, it's a lot of trying things out.
Yeah, and also like I think it's a difficult thing if you've never been in a studio properly to understand like how you leave that space and allowing being in studio to actually fill those gaps. Like, so my idea was like probably just notes was like sparse instrumentation, Frightened Rabbit, ooze, the National drums, you know. And so that's what I went to the studio thinking. And but having a bit of trust that when you get there, like doing those like different sparse instrumentations. For example, we when we play the next song, I'll explain it. But like just like how you have an idea of a sound that you try to replicate, and then you can talk to your producer and try and find that and experiment until you find it. But I guess I'll explain it when we play the next version.
Cool. Let's get the next version up.
put together pieces of a distant tale. You've got some bruises, but you're thicker skinned. And you've given up and looking back wasn't time spent in vain. You have to exercise self-discipline. So hold my hand and let me go. You're just somebody I used to know. The wanting comes in waves. You play the field, you still care. You need to find yourself some middle ground. Cause the stories that we tell, somehow they shape who we are. So you hide your scars and you make new friends. Oh, so hold my hand now and let me go. You're just somebody I used to know. Never cursed your name, no, I always joked. Never caught the corners, I always hoped. These mirrored walls are forcing me to reflect the water. Throws me to the riptide, the one comes in waves. Throws me to the riptide, the one comes. Oh, the one comes. So hold my hand and let me go. You're just somebody I used to know. So hold my hand and let me go. You're just somebody I used to know.
There you go.
Nice.
Very different. I actually realised that was a kind of an alternative final version as well. I didn't actually have the as much in there in the Spotify version, but it's fine.
What were they?
Actually, just like kind of like you had a snare, and then put like a towel on top, and then rather than use the actual drumsticks, having the drumsticks with the the kind of like soft ending, and then it's kind of going on top of that. Yeah, dig. Because I just had this idea with I really like the national percussion in a song called Fire. What's it called? It's that song called by them.
I'm not sure.
Fire something. Yeah, and I really liked the way they used the snare. And I tried the snare and I tried the rumbling drums, and I ended up removing the rumbling drums and keeping with the kind of like really sparse snare sound because I didn't want it too. It was too obvious in the mix.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah, and so like you see that there's like an EPO there. It's like kind of
in
the background. Yeah, that was just like being in the studio and like looking for that sound, like knowing that it needed something like that, and then just like with Mark Morrow in Edinburgh, and we just kind of like added that in, and it just like it was really simple, but like it's amazing what makes you realize just how simple additions make such a big difference to the vibe of a song, because it's not got too much on it, really, the song.
Yeah, I definitely found that when we were recording. We recorded at Circa 16 Dumfries.
Oh yeah,
as well with Dave, and that was the most recent recording we did, and we added so much because we were just having so much fun doing it. But like half the stuff, I mean, when in the mix, you can't hear it.
Yeah.
It's just so much there, and it's all different frequencies. And once you start mixing it, it doesn't. So you have to take some stuff out, and then you take one thing out, and it just goes.
Yeah,
definitely.
It's
like the more stuff you do, it like pushes like a lid on the sound.
I think I've learned that I've listened to a lot of podcasts as well. It's like when you think you've got a song, take away a couple of things, right? And then I think the National said that take away like two of them and then stick with that because you need the space, don't you? When there's too much in it, I think you can feel it, and that's the genius really, is actually knowing to restrict yourself within a certain confines rather than adding all that. Because I know you go in a studio and it's like you get excited and you got limited time. It's like let's add this. You'd rather add it all than leave and not have added it, But then best is to actually maybe take a step back, like actually just if the drums are there, make sure the drums are just really good rather than having like kind of like semi-average drums and filling up the gaps with other things, Yeah, because the guitar's quite up front in that, so it's own real instrument. So like the guitar, it's got quite a lot of. It sounds like it's got quite a lot of like reverb and compression.
You got piano playing like fifths or something, wasn't it?
Yeah, and that's just been in the studio. I didn't have that idea when I went in there, but I knew it needed something. So just holding like repetitively one note, just kind of
just one note. Yeah.
Yeah, because I've heard quite a lot of that in like bands like the National as well. Just that kind of like consistent, but it adds another layer and just makes it more wholesome. You know, the feeling that you're trying to conjure. Yeah, simplicity. Definitely.
That seems to be the way forward.
I think so. Yeah, I think just try to do too much is just unless it really adds to this. It really adds to the song, and don't just do it because it's fun. You know, like, but also know what you're going for. You know, I was deliberately starting off with like the idea of having like kind of solo-esque songs, and then gradually going into the band as I get a band. So my next single's a band sounding, but like actually deliberately, because like when we played this live at the EP launch, it was much more upbeat version of One Comes the Waves, and we had a drummer, and it was like hey, it's almost like turned into what's that Swedish band called, like you know, kind of band that kind of mountains or something, Francis in the Mountains, something like that. I don't know, just a kind of like much more big, like kind of anthemic kind of thing, rather than just kind of this more intimate version. So that's fun.
You can hear the chorus in that. It could be quite anthemic. You know, you can definitely hear that. Being played louder and like
and I think when I do an album, I'll probably do that in another version. You know, and I think that's really fun. I think that's really like fun to that a song is never finished. You know, it's never finished. You can take it in any direction you want.
Yeah,
but we
need someone like you know, like Glenn Hansard.
Yeah,
he does quite a lot of that with his songs. He records them with the what's his band called, The Frames. And he'll do like his solo versions of it, and he'll have band versions, and you can kind of almost, for the listener, you can pick and choose how you want to listen to the song.
Definitely, you know? I think that's quite exciting when artists do that. Like I think Villagers did that. So Villagers you have to check him out. Like he's brilliant, but like each album has a different band kind of now, so it's a different sonic vibe. And he recently released an album. I think he'd done his like 4th album tour, but he went and revisited his old songs with that new sonic vibe, and it brought out really nice aspects of the songs which you didn't really hear before. Some prefer quite a bit more, actually. I think that's like quite exciting. I think Frank Turner does that as well, you know. And it's like,
the new Frank Turner album, the live one, that tour, I think he did.
Yeah,
that was all. They just completely, every song was different to how it was in the albums or how he had played them before.
Yeah, pretty cool. Yeah, I think that's quite cool when you got your band or whatever to kind of just be like, let's try this different, you know.
Yeah,
like
it's quite good because it takes you by surprise sometimes. Like we were playing one of our gigs in the tour we did in February. They started playing one of the songs. They started it. They do like a little intro, but they started it as a bossa nova just for like, it was like last night.
Yeah.
It's like,
why not?
It took me. It's like, why not? You know.
Yeah. That's like Bob Dylan did that, didn't he? You just keep his whole band on his toes. Like, this is how I feel tonight, and he starts playing it, and everyone just to join. And Bruce Springsteen as well. You know, kind of like creates a vibe according to how you feel that in that moment. You have to have a talented band for that, though.
You have to.
Yeah. So it's exciting, but then you need to keep on moving on and kind of like getting songs out. Essentially, that's what I wish I could do more of. Studio time and money, you know. But when that song, like, I was like quite happy with that final version of the song. I was like 90% happy with it, you know, with the resources that I had. So when I put it out, you just put it out, and if people like it, they do. If they don't, then it's fine. Like, but because it did all right in terms of if it got in like 6 music, right? So like, you can't deny there's a doubt in your mind about some of the songs you write when you first start putting songs out, and then when you get like a little bit of validation, it makes you feel a little bit better, gives you a bit of energy to keep on like doing the next one, because even though if it didn't get on a radio, for example, I'd be totally fine because I was happy enough with it. But like, it's a weird thing that
it gives you that little boost that you think maybe, you know, I can do something with this.
Yeah,
you know, maybe I can.
Not like not like completely like, how would you say, deluded. That like
yeah,
because you have to, when you first put out those songs, you are a bit like, why am I promoting this? Why am I spending so much time sharing this around? You know, but yeah, you need to just go. You need to go for it and just do it.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
I think we'll wrap it up there. That was great to chat, and
yeah, for sure.
it was good to hear other people's views on songwriting, because that's kind of why we've got this. Well, I've got this going. You know, whilst everyone's locked up
Yeah,
in their house, you know,
pick up some tips
and
your
some
own
gigs going on.
as well,
Yeah.
and but just also just talking to you and understanding things and reciprocating that, and maybe like picking up different ways of doing things as well. It's really good. Obviously, because lockdown is a great chance to write songs as well. You know, not got nowhere else to go. So I find myself to be semi-creative during this time. Like, there's no FOMO. You know, there's no excuses to kind of like go elsewhere. So just like get on with those songs. But no, but thanks for having me on. And I'll let you know if I do that wee tour, Insta tour online.
Oh yeah, yeah, definitely. I'll be part of it. Definitely. Cool.
Cheers.
Thanks, Alex.